single dad saved a billionaire CEO from a crashing jet. Next morning, 3 Cadillacs appeared. Marcus Hayes was midway through a terrible day when his life changed forever. His pickup truck had broken down that morning. His boss had docked his pay for being late, and now he was sitting in an airport terminal, exhausted from a week of construction work 3 states away, just wanting to get home to his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. Final boarding call for Flight 447, the gate agent announced. Marcus grabbed his worn duffel bag and headed toward the gate. But as he handed over his ticket, the agent frowned at her screen. "Mr. Hayes, there's been an aircraft change. Your economy seat is no longer available, but we've upgraded you to the private charter that's taking the same route. Gate 12, please hurry." Marcus was too tired to question his luck. He jogged to Gate 12, where a sleek private jet waited on the tarmac. A flight attendant ushered him aboard, and he found himself in a leather seat that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Only 4 other passengers occupied the aircraft. 2 nervous-looking businessmen in expensive suits, a woman with silver-streaked hair in an elegant gray suit working intently on her laptop, and a younger man who kept checking his Rolex. Marcus settled in, grateful for the unexpected comfort. Maybe his luck was finally turning around. 20 minutes into the flight, the first shudder hit. The plane jerked violently, sending laptops and briefcases tumbling. The lights flickered. Then came the smell, acrid, burning, wrong. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Rodriguez." A strained voice crackled through the intercom. "We're experiencing catastrophic engine failure and electrical problems. We're attempting an emergency water landing. Prepare for impact." Chaos erupted instantly. The younger man started screaming. One of the businessmen was hyperventilating into an oxygen mask. The woman in gray tried to unbuckle her seatbelt, but it jammed, refusing to release. She pulled frantically, her composed demeanor cracking into terror. The plane tilted sharply, and Marcus heard the engines dying, first one then the other. They were gliding now, dropping fast toward the Pacific Ocean, visible through the windows. His construction instincts kicked, and the same instincts that had kept him alive on dangerous job sites for 15 years. "Stay calm, assess, act." Marcus unbuckled and grabbed the edge of the seats to steady himself as the plane shook. "Ma'am, stop pulling," he shouted to the woman in gray. "You're making it worse." He reached her seat and examined the mechanism. The buckle had twisted and jammed, a mechanical failure. Marcus pulled a multi-tool from his pocket, the one he always carried for work, and pried at the buckle's release mechanism. His hands were steady even as the plane screamed downward. Click, the belt released. "Emergency exit," Marcus yelled, pointing to the wing exit row. "Everyone move now." But the other passengers were paralyzed with fear. The plane was at a steep angle now, luggage and equipment sliding toward the cockpit. Marcus could see white-capped waves through the windows, getting closer every second. He grabbed the woman in gray by the arm and hauled her toward the emergency exit. Then he went back for the businessmen, physically dragging them from their seats. The younger man was curled in a ball, sobbing. "Get up or die here," Marcus roared, and something in his voice cut through the man's panic. Marcus yanked the emergency exit handle. The door blew away and wind roared into the cabin. The ocean was right there, less than 100 feet below. "When we hit, swim away from the plane." Marcus shouted instructions he'd learned in a long-ago Navy training. "The suction will pull you under if you're too close." The impact was like hitting concrete. The plane slammed into the Pacific with devastating force. Marcus felt his body whiplash forward, his head crack against something hard. Water exploded through the cabin, cold, choking, disorienting. The fuselage twisted and began to sink immediately. Marcus's vision blurred, but his body moved on instinct. He kicked toward the light, toward the surface. His lungs screamed for air. He broke through, gasping, and immediately looked around. 3 heads bobbed in the waves, the businessman and the younger man, all struggling but alive. But where was the woman in gray? Marcus took a huge breath and dove back down. The plane was sinking fast, a dark shadow descending into the deep. He kicked harder, his clothes and boots weighing him down. There, a flash of gray fabric trapped in twisted metal. His lungs burned as he reached her. She was unconscious, her arm caught in wreckage. Marcus braced his feet, against the plane's fuselage, and pulled with everything he had. The metal cut his hands, but he didn't stop. Her arm came free, and Marcus wrapped his arm around her chest, kicking frantically toward the fading light above. His vision was darkening at the edges. His body was giving out. Just a little further. They broke the surface, and Marcus gasped desperately, keeping her head above water. She wasn't breathing. The emergency raft had auto-deployed, floating 20 yards away. Marcus swam toward it with the last of his strength, dragging the woman with him. The other survivors helped pull them onto the raft. Marcus immediately started CPR, pressing on her chest, breathing into her lungs. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on." Water erupted from her mouth and she gasped, coughing violently. Her eyes opened, unfocused but alive. "You're okay," Marcus said, his voice shaking with exhaustion and relief. "You're going to be okay." Rescue helicopters arrived 45 minutes later. As they were being lifted to safety, the woman grabbed Marcus's hand weakly. "What's your name?" she rasped. "Marcus Hayes, ma'am." "Victoria Chen," she whispered. "Thank you for my life." The hospital kept Marcus overnight for observation, mild concussion, cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. He called his neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who was watching Emma, and assured her he was fine and would be home tomorrow. The news channels were calling it a miracle. All 6 people aboard the doomed private jet survived thanks to the quick thinking of one passenger, the reporter announced, showing footage of the rescue. Marcus just wanted to go home. The next morning, after the hospital discharged him, he took a cab back to his modest house on Elm Street. The cab pulled up and Marcus froze. 3 black Cadillac Escalades were parked in front of his house. Men in dark suits stood beside them. His neighbors were gawking from their porches. "Dad." Emma burst out the front door and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "There are fancy people here to see you." Victoria Chen stepped out of the middle Escalade. She was impeccably dressed in a navy suit, her left arm in a sling, but her bearing was commanding. Behind her, 2 assistants carried briefcases and folders. "Mr. Hayes," she said, extending her right hand. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion. I have a debt to settle." Marcus shook her hand, bewildered. "Ma'am, there's no debt. I did what anyone would." "But they didn't," Victoria interrupted firmly. "When that plane was going down, 3 grown men froze in terror. You acted. You saved 5 lives, including mine. Do you know who I am, Mr. Hayes?" "You said Victoria Chen," CEO and founder of Chen Global Industries, aerospace engineering, defense contracts, infrastructure development. 50,000 employees worldwide, $4 billion in annual revenue. She smiled slightly. "I'm telling you this not to impress you, but so you understand that I have the resources to properly repay what you've done." She nodded to her assistant, who opened a briefcase. "I had my team do some research last night. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion, but I needed to understand who saved my life." Marcus Hayes, age 34. Former Navy, honorably discharged. Construction foreman at Benson Development. Widower. Your wife Sarah passed 3 years ago from cancer. Single father to Emma, age 7. You work 2 jobs to make ends meet. You're 4 months behind on your mortgage. Emma needs braces next year that you can't afford. You haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. Your truck is held together with duct tape and prayer. Am I accurate so far? Marcus felt his face flush with embarrassment. Emma hugged him tighter. "Ma'am, I don't need charity." "This isn't charity, Mr. Hayes. This is debt repayment. And frankly, it's also self-interest." Victoria handed him a folder. "First, the debt. Your mortgage is paid in full as of this morning. The bank has already been notified. Emma's education is fully funded through any university she chooses, including medical or law school if that's her path. Your medical bills from yesterday are handled. And this?" She handed him an envelope. Marcus opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a check for $500,000. "I can't," Marcus started, but Victoria held up her hand. "Yes, you can and you will. That's my life insurance policy paying out what I'm worth to my company. Only, I survived to see it. You get half." The pilot and co-pilot split the other half. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Emma looked up at him, confused, but sensing something important was happening. "Now for the self-interest part," Victoria continued. I didn't build a $4 billion company by accident. Mr. Hayes, I built it by recognizing talent and character. Yesterday at 30,000 feet, in the worst possible circumstances, I watched you stay calm, think clearly, and take decisive action. You have leadership qualities that can't be taught in business school. She handed him another folder. I'm offering you a position as Director of Operations for Chen Global's Infrastructure Division. Starting salary is $180,000 per year. Full benefits, company car, flexible schedule so you can still be there for Emma. You'll oversee major construction, projects, highways, bridges, commercial buildings. You know the work from the ground up, which means you'll understand what the crews need and when management is being unrealistic. Marcus stared at the offer letter, unable to speak. I don't have a college degree, he finally managed. You have 15 years of real-world experience in the judgment to save 5 lives under impossible pressure. That's worth more than any MBA. Victoria's voice softened. Mr. Hayes, I know you're thinking this is too much, that you don't deserve it. But here's the truth. Yesterday you gave me something priceless. You gave me more time with my own grandchildren. You gave 50,000 employees the leader they need. You gave the world whatever contributions I have left to make. How do you put a price on that? Emma tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Dad, does this mean you won't have to work nights anymore? You can come to my school play next month? Marcus looked down at his daughter, his reason for everything, and then back at Victoria. Chen, for 3 years he'd been drowning, working himself to exhaustion, struggling to give Emma the life she deserved while honoring Sarah's memory. One moment, one choice to act when others froze, and everything had changed. When do I start? Marcus asked, his voice thick with emotion. Victoria smiled. Monday. But I insist you take this week off. Spend it with Emma. You've earned it. As the Cadillacs pulled away and the neighbors finally stopped staring, Marcus sat on his front steps with Emma in his lap. Dad, why are you crying? She asked. Because sometimes, sweetheart, when you do the right thing just because it's right, not for reward or recognition, but because it's who you are, the universe finds a way to give back. He hugged her tight. And because I get to come to every school play from now on. That night after Emma was asleep, Marcus stood in his small backyard looking at the stars. He thought about Sarah and how she'd always told him that his biggest strength was his steady heart in a crisis. I hope I made you proud, he whispered to the night sky. The next Monday, Marcus Hayes started his new life, not because he'd sought wealth or recognition, but because when it mattered most, he'd been exactly who he was raised to be, a man who did what was right whatever the cost. And in the end, that made all the difference.